All right, so just sending a little update video for Miss Kaya. The two things that we have been working on, or kind of a combination of two things as far as leash walking goes, building engagement and helping her understand how to respond to leash pressure. So with leash pressure, everything naturally resists pressure. So if I were to walk up to you and push you, you would lean into it to avoid from falling backwards. So dogs, naturally, when we're walking, they pull into leash when they feel that tension. It's something that's rewarded. They put a little pressure, they deal with that. They get to go where they want to go, and when they are at their designation, typically that is when the pressure comes off, which is ultimately a reward. So negative reinforcement, a discomfort is being removed to reinforce and to continue a behavior. So I want her to understand that there is value in moving into the pressure. So what I'm doing is pairing that leash tension with reward. So I will apply a little bit of pressure, and then good, when she moves into it and creates slack in the leash, I will mark with that good, or the yes, or the click, whatever I'm using at the time, and then pay her. So I am kind of switching the role of what that pressure means and showing her that there's value in moving into it instead of resisting and putting more pressure into it. So that is ultimately the first step. So now that she's got some commands on her and we're starting to layer words into the behaviors, when we start walking, I'll say, let's go. If she starts to forge ahead at all, I'll just, okay. And as soon as she puts just the slightest bit of counter resistance and moves back into that pressure, I will release the pressure, reward, to show her that that's what I liked. And we're outside and doing things out and about around the neighborhood now, but for sake of video, I just did this in here, so it's kind of not a very good demonstration. So I just want her to understand that, yes, even the slightest bit of moving into that leash pressure, there is benefit to that for her. The other part of that is the engagement. So first, I want to reward attention to me. I do not expect Kaya to stare at me the entire time that we're walking. I don't want her to do that. I want her to enjoy herself. But every time she checks in with me, I'm going to tell her that I like that. I just want to show her that there's value in caring about where I am. And I think that's a big part of why dogs check out and do their own things, because their owners don't really give them a lot to go on. So, or put a lot of interest in what they have to offer, especially if you're out and about walking, like there's scents and sights and things moving around. And if you're just walking with them and kind of ignoring them, playing on your phone, doing your own thing, or even like pestering them, then they're going to learn to just avoid you essentially. So, how I pay or reward that checking in and paying attention to me and all that stuff, I want it to be something that she actually thinks is fun. I don't want it to just be, here's a treat, and then check out from her. I want it to be something where I keep her engaged with me as long as possible. And obviously I'm going to fudge that right now. I want to go over the top with it so that she gets the picture, so that way when you start to do it, you don't have to be so over the top. Yes, I think that that's going to be something that you have to do a little bit of as well, because, you know, relationship doesn't always transfer. She has great engagement and doing all this fun and exciting stuff with me. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to do it with you. You will have to put a little bit of effort, but all I'm doing is just adding movement into the treats and paying attention to her and being silly and goofy, which she really likes. So, you know, Kaya, she's a very independent dog, but she's very playful and mischievous. So I want to tap into those natural little drives that she has to create excitement and interest in me when we walk. Kaya, ready? So when we're walking around and she looks up at me for a second, yes. Good girl. Oh my gosh, good girl. And I want to, I want her to chase my hand. And I just pulled her from out in the yard, so now she's all tired, of course, for the video. I want her to chase my hand a little bit. I'm going to offer her food, yes, and when she comes to get it, make it miss it a little bit, so she has to try extra hard to get it. So instead of just here's food smashing into her face and then walking away from her. I want to keep her playing with me and being silly. I'm going to move backwards and let her chase me and be silly. Good girl. Yes. Yeah, good girl. Keep the food coming. Good girl. Come on. Sit. Yes. Good girl. So good. That's a good girl. Whoop. Don't put it in. Good girl. Good job. I see your little nubbins going. Sit. Good. Down. Good. Yes. Good. Girl. Come on. Sit. Down. Nope. Down. Good. Okay. So with her down there, when she, no, out, yes. When she, what's the word I want to use? When she stops doing, she checks out. So she started going to her down, and then she lost interest in doing it. I just use a little bit of leash pressure, so the lightest bit of leash pressure downwards to kind of encourage her to continue to go into her down. And then I still marked with that good, and then I immediately released her, and I didn't give her a payment because I want her to understand that she doesn't just get payment for everything anymore. So we're starting to kind of tap into that variable reward schedule, meaning I only pay her for stuff that I really like, and that is, initially she get paid for every single thing that she does to build that reinforcement history, and now that I am starting to withhold treats, I want her to question why she's not getting something when she's used to that history of getting something for everything. So the idea is that when she doesn't get something, she thinks, why didn't I get it? Let me try an alternative behavior or try a little harder to get that history, to get that reinforcement coming back again. So that's just a way to kind of play around with making her think that it's her idea to try a little bit harder with her obedience. We're going to start doing a little bit of corrections and things like that, but right now I'm playing around with just manipulating the mind a little bit. But yeah, so engagement, I think that's going to be really huge. I think when she is out and about and there's a lot of stuff going on, I have seen her liven up a bit. She's been out playing, we're done a session, so now she's a little tired, so she's not being all silly and sassy like she normally is with me. She's very quiet. I mean, for me, she's pretty quiet and mellow. I definitely see a lot of like little mischievous, like little stuffs in her, and I have not seen her be spicy towards other dogs at all. She plays really well out in the yard. We haven't really gone around other dogs on a walk just yet, so that'll definitely be something that I work on when we encounter it. We just haven't quite gotten there yet. I wanted to really make sure that that her obedience was up first, and that we had good engagement before I start putting her in those situations where she's really going to be tempted to check out. I want to make sure I'm setting up myself and her up for success before we go into the situation. So definitely something to work on at home is building engagement, being exciting, being motivating, almost to the point of being obnoxious when you're out on walks. Every time she sees something that she's showing the slightest bit of interest in, you can say her name, run backwards, be unavailable. It's just like dating, playing hard to get. If you were always available and trying to overtake her interests in a way that, like if you're trying to give her a treat and she doesn't really want it because she's doing something else and you're trying to push it into her face, that makes her not want it more. But if you instead, you say her name and she's like, I'm doing this up here, you're like, well, I'm gonna go the opposite direction, and you run backwards and you just get that game of chase going, and she has to work really hard to get whatever it is that you're offering her instead of it being readily available. That really, it's such a great motivation tool. Dogs are predatory animals. When they're chasing prey or whatever, the more exciting part of it is the chase, especially since she doesn't need to actually eat anything if she catches it. She doesn't want to actually murder it, she just wants to chase things. So that's typically how dogs are. They're not trying to, anyway, that putting movement in things and letting them chase and all that stuff that's natural for dogs, and you can use that to your advantage. Right, I'm getting all over the place, sidetracked here. You're looking like a little muffin down there. So yeah, we're working on leash pressure, engagement. We're gonna start going out and about to work on her reactivity. I don't know if you caught me earlier, there's like a hot dog over there that fell on the ground, and she started to drag over towards it. I said the word out, that means to leave a resource. That's not perfect yet, so I wouldn't really practice that at home too much unless you're prepared to follow through with it. So here I follow through with it by keeping tension on the leash. We are working on her disengaging from something that she has that I don't want her to have. So first we're starting out with moving away from me, which will be great for if she's showing possession of you around other things. Moving away from me, moving away from something that's away from me, starting out with low value items, things that she doesn't really care about, and then working her way up to things that she does care about. That way she's understanding the picture, so that way when it's more of a surprise scenario, she understands that picture and how to respond to it, instead of us just fussing at her, right? All right, hopefully anything I just said made sense. My daughter has entered the phase of life where there's monsters in her room, so we have not gotten sleep in our house in a very, very long time, so I don't even know what I just said. All right.